Welcome to the deep dive. We sift through the sources, we pull out the most critical info, and we basically hand you the shortcut. And today, we're doing a deep dive into a molecule that is, well, it's as tiny as it is mighty. We're talking about nitric oxide, or NO.
It really is the ultimate foundational molecule. Some people even call it the miracle molecule. And if you look across, the entire spectrum of human health, NO is absolutely integral to energy, to immunity, the aging process, and, the pathology of nearly every chronic disease. We are really talking about the basic physics of vitality.
And you're probably hearing more about it now because the sources we've looked at show this crucial and pretty dangerous paradox. NO is essential for life, yet it's overwhelmingly overlooked by conventional medicine. And what's worse, the market is just flooded with misinformation, with bad products. Think of the cheap beet supplements on the shelf. They threaten to kill the entire field because patients try them, they see no results, and then they conclude, oh, nitric oxide just doesn't work for me.
And that conclusion is exactly what we have to correct. That's our mission today. We're going to unpack this whole issue, clarify the foundational biology, and explain why the system just ignores it. We want to give you a roadmap for restoring its production because the core scientific truth is this. Nitric oxide always works when it's given at the right time, at the right dose, and in the right patient.
So let's start at the beginning. What exactly is nitric oxide?
Okay, let's define our terms. Nitric oxide is a simple gas molecule. And crucially, once it's produced in the body, it's highly reactive and it's gone in less than a second.
Less than a second.
But in that tiny fraction of time, it acts as probably the most important signaling molecule we have, especially for controlling blood flow and the health of our cardiovascular system. And look, this isn't fringe science. The discovery of its role as a signaling molecule, that led to a Nobel Prize over 30 years ago.
So, okay, we've known for decades that this gas controls our blood vessels, our systemic health. Why is something so foundational still being ignored by conventional care today? 30 years is well past the typical discovery to practice lag time.
That lag time, the whole 17-year idea for discovery to reach the bedside, that's part of it for sure. But there are deeper, more structural reasons for the neglect. The first one is measurement. You just can't measure NO deficiency with a simple blood test.
It's gone so fast.
Exactly. It's produced and used immediately. A doctor can't go and draw blood and go, oh, well, your nitric oxide is low. It's not like testing for vitamin D or iron. You can't get that snapshot, so doctors just assume it's fine.
That makes sense. If you can't quantify it, it's hard to treat it.
Right. And the second reason is, well, it's structural. Nitric oxide problems are always about a deficiency, a lack of production, and that fundamentally clashes with the standard model of pharmacology. Western medicine is built on inhibiting reactions with drugs.
Blocking a pathway, blocking an enzyme.
Blocking a receptor, yeah. We use blockers for everything. Acid, pain, you name it.
So the whole model is about stopping something.
Precisely. Physicians are trained to diagnose a disease and then prescribe an FDA-approved drug to stop a process. But there are no general-use NO-based drugs for them to prescribe because it's about restoring a natural process, not inhibiting a bad one. The system is designed for pharmacology, but the solution here, it's in what we call restorative physiology.
Okay, let's connect this to real life then. If you have low NO, how does that actually show up? What are the symptoms people should be looking for?
Well, there's a very clear, well-documented clinical hierarchy as NO production declines. And the very first sign, we call it the canary in the coal mine.
Oh, what's that?
That first, often unspoken sign is sexual dysfunction, particularly erectile dysfunction, ED, in men, but also decreased arousal in women. To achieve engorgement in any sex organ, you have to flood the tissue with blood. That requires massive vasodilation. And that vasodilation requires nitric oxide.
So your body can't do that on demand in the sexual organs?
It's a clear indication of systemic endothelial dysfunction.
Wow. So ED isn't just some isolated plumbing issue. It's a huge vascular warning that the pipes everywhere else are starting to fail.
Absolutely. It signals a failure to produce NO when you need it. The second major sign is increased blood pressure. And this is just, it's simple physics. We have a finite volume of blood. If we make NO, the vessels dilate, there's less resistance. If we can't make NO, the vessels are chronically constricted. You're forcing the same volume of blood through smaller pipes, the pressure has to go up.
And that's why 2 out of 3 Americans have unsafe blood pressure.
It's a huge part of it.
And I imagine once the vascular system is under that kind of pressure, the metabolic system starts to crumble too.
That's number 3, metabolic disease and insulin resistance. And here's where the mechanics are just so critical. NO is essential for insulin signaling inside the cell. When insulin binds to its receptor on the outside, the signaling pathway on the inside, it activates the nitric oxide synthase enzyme.
Hey, hold on.
And it's the NO that then activates the GLUT4 transporter, which opens the door to bring glucose into the cell for energy.
So insulin itself doesn't directly open the door for glucose. NO is the key.
NO is the necessary intermediary. Without enough NO, the cell physically cannot respond effectively to insulin. That leads directly to cellular insulin resistance, even if your pancreas is making plenty of insulin.
That is a huge piece of the puzzle that almost no one talks about.
It's fundamental. Fourth on the list is exercise intolerance, the inability to properly dilate your coronary arteries to get blood flow to your muscles when you exert yourself. And finally, number 5, and this is the most terrifying, it's the systemic failure showing up as brain fog, cognitive impairment, dementia, and Alzheimer's. That whole hierarchy shows you the progressive systematic loss of one critical molecule over a lifetime.
You just described the disease trajectory for the vast majority of people over 50. And this brings us to the tragedy of how conventional medicine treats these symptoms, right? It's completely ignoring the root cause. So let's take that patient we talked about. A 72-year-old on statins, ED meds, 3 different blood pressure meds. His cholesterol is now dangerously low at 75, his A1C is pre-diabetic, and now he's facing a cancerous process. How did the prescriptions that were supposed to help him actually cause this metabolic mayhem?
This patient is a perfect storm, and it was created by misguided pharmacological intervention. Let's just break down the harm from 2 of the most common prescriptions. First, the cholesterol-lowering drugs, the statins. If we drive cholesterol too low, let's say below 200, the body loses the raw material it needs to make vital hormones: vitamin D, estrogen, testosterone. But here's the profound part. Cholesterol is necessary for the fluidity of the cell membrane, and critically for maintaining the cell's electrical potential.
The cell's voltage, basically.
Exactly. Think of the cell membrane as a capacitor. It needs cholesterol to hold that charge. When you lose that potential by lowering cholesterol too much, you get endothelial dysfunction. The cell starts shifting its metabolism away from oxygen toward fermentation.
That's the Warburg effect of cancer.
That's the Warburg effect. Statins are known mitochondrial toxicants. So by treating a risk factor high cholesterol with a statin, you are actively paving the way for metabolic syndrome and cancer by destroying the cell's foundational electrical health.
That's profound.
Yeah.
You treat one number on a lab report and you create 5 other more severe problems, all stemming from that lost cellular potential and ultimately NO dysfunction.
It is a cascading failure, and even more egregious in its mechanical harm are the acid blockers, the PPIs, drugs like omeprazole, which you can buy over the counter. They completely shut down the body's ability to produce or utilize nitric oxide.
Acid blockers shut down NO. How is that even related to heartburn?
It's directly related to their mechanism of action, and the clinical outcomes are terrifying. Studies now show that patients who've been on these drugs for at least 3 years have a 40% higher incidence of heart attack, stroke, and Alzheimer's disease.
40%.
A 40% higher incidence of actual events. We are not talking about a marginal increase in risk here.
That's an incredibly strong assertion. If the evidence is that clear, why are doctors still prescribing these routinely, keeping people on them long term?
It's habit and a lack of knowledge about this restorative physiology. They just aren't aware of the foundational role of NO. In many informed circles, keeping patients on PPIs long-term is now viewed as, well, as a form of negligence or medical malpractice. These drugs are just far more dangerous to long-term health than many drugs that were pulled from the market 25 years ago. The harm they inflict is too severe to ignore.
Okay, so given this widespread deficiency, it's no surprise the market is flooded with products claiming to boost NO. Let's bust some of those myths. What are the biggest non-solutions people are wasting money on?
We have to start with the most common advice: supplementing with arginine or citrulline. The key message here for you is that this is unnecessary and potentially harmful. We are never deficient in arginine, the precursor. Intracellularly, our levels are naturally 20 to 40 times higher than what's needed to activate the enzyme.
So the fuel's already in the tank. Why isn't the body making NO?
Because the engine is broken. The enzyme, nitric oxide synthase, is uncoupled. This happens when it's damaged by things like high glucose. Remember, glucose gums up everything, or toxins, or low antioxidant status. When that enzyme is uncoupled, it doesn't use arginine to make protective NO. Instead, it uses arginine to generate the superoxide radical.
Which is a massive source of oxidative stress.
A massive source. So when you supplement with more arginine, you're just forcing that broken pathway.
You're adding fuel to an engine that's already spewing toxic exhaust.
Exactly. You are making the patient worse, increasing oxidative stress. This is particularly dangerous for people post-heart attack or with peripheral artery disease.
Okay, that's crystal clear on arginine. Next up, the huge category of beet products.
Right. Beets are not nitric oxide. It's a three-step process. Beets contain nitrate. That nitrate has to be converted to nitrate by the right bacteria on your tongue. Then that nitrite has to be converted into NO. Most commercial beet products, they lack detectable nitrate. Processing destroys it. They're selling you dead beets.
And even if a product did have enough nitrate, that critical middle step is compromised for most people, right?
Completely. People wipe out their oral microbiome every day with alcohol-based mouthwash or fluoride toothpaste. They kill the very bacteria they need to make this process work.
So they buy the expensive supplement, use mouthwash religiously, and then wonder why their blood pressure hasn't budged.
And then they wrongly conclude that nitric oxide itself doesn't work.
Okay, finally, let's clarify this fire truck paradox. This is the idea where you see high NO at a site of disease and assume the NO is causing the problem.
Yes, this is a dangerous misinterpretation of the data. When you have an injury or an infection, your body activates what's called inducible nitric oxide synthase, or INOS. This generates high levels of NO locally, but it's a protective response. It enhances blood flow to the site, and it fights pathogens. Nitric oxide literally shuts down bacterial respiration and virus replication.
The body is sending in its defenses.
Exactly. It's like seeing a bunch of fire trucks at a huge fire and concluding the fire trucks caused the fire.
That's the paradox.
That's the paradox. The high NO is a consequence of the immune system trying to heal. In fact, when they ran trials trying to inhibit this NO production in septic patients, those patients died at a higher rate. That local response is fundamentally protective.
So we've established that the solution isn't bad supplements or symptom management, but restorative physiology. What practices actually support healthy endogenous NO production? How do we fix that broken enzyme?
It starts by eliminating the inhibitors. You have to ruthlessly cut out sugar and highly processed carbs. We know glucose gums up the gears, it sticks to hemoglobin, and it makes the NO synthase enzymes dysfunctional. It uncouples them. You also have to eliminate those cheap processed seed oils that mess with your cell membranes.
And on the positive side?
On the restorative side, a high-protein, good-quality fat, low-carb diet, moderate, consistent physical exercise is absolutely essential. And intermittent fasting. Even a simple 18-hour daily fast has incredible data supporting its benefits in repairing mitochondrial and vascular health.
And there's also that powerful free lifestyle hack that most of us just completely ignore.
Nasal breathing. It's so wildly underrated. The epithelial cells in your sinuses produce a significant amount of nitric oxide. When you breathe through your nose, that gas is delivered directly into your pulmonary circulation. It dilates the bronchioles, improves oxygen absorption, and it can demonstrably lower your blood pressure.
All from just closing your mouth.
Mouth breathing bypasses that entire crucial pathway.
Before we wrap up, I want to touch on health equity for a moment, because you mentioned a specific successful application of NO-enhancing drugs in the African American community.
Yes, this is a powerful clinical example. There was a trial for heart failure patients using a drug combination, ISDN and hydralazine, that enhances NO signaling. And while it failed in the general cohort, it showed extreme efficacy in African American patients.
So effective, they had to stop the trial.
They had to stop it. It was considered unethical to keep giving the control group a placebo. This highlighted a clear clinical benefit in a population that is genetically and epidemiologically predisposed to severe NO deficiency. It explains many of the disparities we see in heart failure, hypertension, and diabetes.
That is just undeniable evidence of the molecule's power. So what does the future hold for this tiny gas?
I am absolutely convinced that NO-based therapies will be the future of medicine. We'll finally move past just symptomatic prescribing. This molecule is foundational. It dilates blood vessels, improves oxygenation, it recouples mitochondria, mobilizes stem cells for repair, it even activates telomerase. We're already seeing incredible clinical applications. We've seen topical NO treatments heal a 4-year-old non-healing pressure wound on a paraplegic diabetic patient.
Wow.
Drugs are in development right now for ischemic heart disease and for Alzheimer's. We're moving toward healing these diseases at their molecular root, not just managing the fallout.
This has been an incredible deep dive. It's so clear that nitric oxide isn't some niche trend. It is the key driver of metabolic health, of vitality, of longevity.
And my final encouragement is to use this knowledge. Get educated, get informed, and start prioritizing restorative physiology over just taking a pill. Understanding these fundamentals allows you to take real control of your own health.
You heard how common prescriptions, like cholesterol-lowering drugs and acid blockers, can fundamentally destroy the cell's electrical potential and lead to systemic disease because they wipe out the foundational molecule, nitric oxide. So if such simple, widely accepted medications can have this dramatic effect on our basic physiology, what other standard practices are we mistakenly targeting as the cause of disease when they are only the consequence? Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.